Ghana, thousands of Chinese miners are involved in an illegal gold rush that's stripping the country of a precious resource. It's destroying farmland and wrecking livelihoods.
They have destroyed my future now.
It's devastating the environment. A toxic mix of money and weapons is leading to resentment and violence. And the government admits the problem is out of control.
The scale is so vast, it is difficult to actually quantify.
Across Africa, China is striking deals to secure access to raw materials vital to its economic growth. China's government has given Ghana a $3 billion loan to develop its infrastructure. More than 10,000 Chinese immigrants are arriving here every year, many of them hoping to make money. I was in Dunkwa, 6 hours drive from the capital Accra. I'd heard that hundreds of Chinese miners had arrived here in the past 2 years. Their presence in the town was hard to miss. It even has a Chinese supermarket. Dunkwa is a boom town. Its streets are lined with shops offering to buy gold. As soon as I arrived, I heard 2 Chinese miners had been arrested. Outside the police station, I met Francis Aqua. He grows cocoa, one of Ghana's biggest exports. He said he'd arrived at his farm to find that 2 men had driven a digger onto a field and started to dig for gold.
They have excavated the land, destroying the cocoa farm.
He said he could scarcely believe what had happened.
It was a shock to me, because that is my life. You know, cocoa farming, it's a future. It's my future. They have destroyed my future now. How will I get out for my children and wife? It's a problem now.
The miners were in the station, but the police refused to let me see them. Off the record, a senior officer said that the area had been swamped by illegal Chinese miners, and he didn't have the resources to stop them. Only Ghanaians can get licenses for small-scale gold mining. Foreigners can provide equipment and services, but just 75 Chinese people have legal permission to do so, according to government figures from August. Ghana's Chamber of Mines says that thousands of Chinese people work in mining. I left town to track down some Chinese miners. Deep in the forest, I could hear an excavator at work. This area used to be covered in trees, and now, as far as the eye can see, they've been cut down. These huge pits have been dug out, and they're filled with water. In the heart of the mine, Chinese miners were digging up the gravel. They were looking for a heavy black sand that contains gold ore. Gold mining is hugely profitable. Because of the global economic downturn, its price has doubled in 4 years. 40-year-old Huang Renzhong had been a tea farmer in China. He said there was only one reason he'd come.
He
said he was paid about £120 a week, much more than he could earn in China. Why do Ghanaians need Chinese people to come here and work on these mines? He worked with 8 Ghanaians who came from another region, but he said there was tension between the Chinese miners and people from the local villages. There were several empty shotgun cartridges on the ground around us. Why do you need to have guns here? There are regular reports of Chinese miners being robbed for their gold and the money they earn from it. Is it legal for you to be working here on this mine? The Minerals Commission, the government body that grants mining licenses, told us it had not authorised a mine here. Off camera, Zhong's boss admitted the mine was operating illegally. According to one expert, 95% of small-scale mining is illegal. For decades, Ghanaians have been able to dig for gold using traditional tools. The law aims to provide much needed jobs while protecting the environment. But the arrival of the Chinese has led to big changes. The machinery they use often leaves behind significant amounts of gold that can only be extracted by hand. This has created a new secondary industry that's drawn in thousands more Ghanaians, hoping to strike it rich. But it can be dangerous work. In a local hospital, I found 35-year-old Yao Asumang having his broken leg treated. He said he'd been looking for gold in an abandoned Chinese pit. Yao said he knew mining was dangerous, but he had a wife and children, and this earned him more than being a farm labourer. How will you support your family while you're injured? Emilia Jamfor is in charge of the accident and emergency unit. She said she saw lots of injured miners.
They come with fractures, gunshot wounds, chest injuries. When it happens, they bleed internally, and if care is not taken, sometimes they can die within 1 or 2 hours.
What's the most serious you've seen?
He fell into a pit, and the sand collapsed on him. He was suffering from internal bleeding. We decided to refer the patients. We had a message later on that the patient died.
Do you think enough is being done to protect people working in mining?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because the number of injury cases, keep on increasing.
Outside, I met Idrisu Shirej, who said he was an excavator driver at a nearby mine. He claimed he'd been assaulted by a Chinese worker after an argument.
He climbed the machine. He came and started to beat me. I was in the seat. I couldn't do anything unless God protect me.
He said he was shocked by the attack and wouldn't go back to work at the mine.
They doesn't have respect to human beings.
We were unable to talk to the Chinese miner to get his side of the story. Idrisu said he'd reported the assault to the police.
When the Chinese did some bad, you take him to the police station. They can pay the money.
Are you saying the Chinese bribe the police?
Yeah.
Police corruption is widespread in Ghana. Several people, including a senior officer, told me that the police were being paid off by illegal miners. Everywhere I went, I saw more mines. In one 2-kilometre stretch of road, I passed 5 huge pits. In some villages, the illegal mining boom was even affecting children. In one pit, I found 14-year-old Akwesi Kweku and his brother Yao. Akwesi said they'd been working there for a year. He told me they earned more here than working in the fields or gathering firewood to sell. They really needed the money. Akwesi said they sold their gold to a man in the village. I wanted to meet him. They took me to the local witch doctor, Kweku Jamina, who is also a gold trader. Good evening. Outside the house, they washed the black sand they'd gathered to get rid of any remaining soil. The witch doctor gave them some mercury to extract gold from the sand. Mercury is highly toxic and can cause lifelong disability. There's no known safe level of exposure. Akwesi burnt off the mercury to leave behind the gold. The witch doctor gave him 4 cedis, about £1.40, which Akwesi said he'd give to his uncle. Some days they found no gold and weren't paid at all. He said money was so tight, he dropped out of school.
Sky Better and Lini. They book school.
Akwesi said that lots of his friends were also dropping out of school. He hoped he could start going again soon. The arrival of the Chinese miners was clearly having a profound impact on this village. The law is supposed to protect children from doing dangerous work. But isn't it illegal for children like this to be working in mining?
Even though it's illegal, it's young, so parents didn't need Omuntimi and Jankolana. Until the Bayan said, force, or so no fighting for destiny. I'm doing a video to the need. And the illegal, so we are with you.
Do you feel that you are profiting from children doing illegal work?
Oh, me say me for so from home. Man, say we can even though
But even he thought that mining had been bad for the village.
Because I'm saying by an issue and you say, as a young fool, quite in us, and sassing in answer, saying,
The government says that drinking water is being poisoned by the chemicals used in mining, such as mercury and cyanide. I headed back to the capital, Accra. I'd heard there were plans for a crackdown on illegal mining, involving the military, police, and immigration officers. I went to see the army officer leading it, Brigadier General Daniel Michio. Can you describe the scale of illegal mining in Ghana?
The scale is so vast, it is difficult to actually quantify. You just have to go out into all the regions where we have minerals just to get to see the scale. So it's really on a very huge scale.
How successful have the operations you've carried out so far been?
They've been quite successful. I wouldn't say fully successful. Most of the operations that we've conducted, if you get back into the areas, you see that after we had finished the operations, unless we sustain them, they go back into the areas.
He told me that this year they'd ensure that illegal miners couldn't return. I asked if the authorities really had the capacity to do that.
It is a daunting task, but we have the capacity. By the end of the year, we want to see all illegal mining in rivers, in forest reserves, down to zero.
Is that an achievable goal?
It is an achievable goal.
The authorities are remarkably frank about the scale of this problem, and it's clear that they are taking steps to stop it. But it seems to me that even if they meet their own targets of stopping all illegal mining on rivers and in forest reserves by the end of 2013, they'll still have only dealt with a tiny part of the overall problem. There was one more thing I wanted to find out. What happens to all of the gold produced in small-scale mines? The answer was surprising. Much of it appears to be bought by the state's own gold trading body, the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, or one of its 750 licensed agents. It openly states that it buys gold from small-scale mines, but claims it operates within the law and only buys from Ghanaians. However, our evidence suggests that many of these mines are operating illegally. The PMMC declines to explain what checks it carries out. Ghana's gold rush could provide hundreds of thousands of jobs and major tax revenues. Instead, the people benefiting most are the illegal miners. What's happening here should be a warning to other countries with rich raw materials but weak governance. The new rush for resources in Africa will affect the lives of millions of people. For some, it will be a path to prosperity, but for others, it will ensure they remain locked in poverty for decades to come.